Hello, I'm Norman Robinson, and welcome to Affordable Housing Matters. In this show, we'll take a look at a senior living facility providing an affordable living for people in New Orleans. Also on the program, we will visit with Finance Authority of New Orleans, whom are adjusting their business model to embrace environmental change. We have a great show planned for you this evening, so don't go far.
Thanks to your generosity, Marines have delivered Christmas to children in need since 1947.
The Finance Authority of New Orleans is a housing and development finance agency serving all New Orleanians in order to provide a better community. Joining me now to discuss their mission and their adjustment to environmental changes is Mr. Damon Burns, President and CEO of the Finance Authority of New Orleans. You're awfully young to be President and CEO. That means you must be dynamic. You must be good.
Somebody over there was sleeping at the wheel when they made the decision. I don't know.
You're being much too modest.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you for being back. We've had you here before. You provided us with a template of what you all are doing, what you have laid out for your program. So let's start there. What is the Housing Authority? What is the Finance Authority of New Orleans?
So the Finance Authority of New Orleans has been around for 40 years now, and we were created in 1978 for the purpose of providing more affordable housing in New Orleans. So over time, we've provided home ownership programs. A lot of families bought their first home from the Finance Authority. Even today, I meet people 10, 20, 30 years ago even that said, the Finance Authority helped me get my first home. So people know us a lot in the community for that one reason. But we've evolved over time and began to focus more on development projects and even economic development. So I took over the agency 3.5 years ago. Mr. M. Tamishi St. Julian was there before me for 26 years. So he really built up the agency and gave it the reputation that it has. So all the things that we're doing now are intended to build upon that legacy. Katrina and the Great Recession were not kind to us. As they were not kind to the rest of the city as well. So the Finance Authority is no different in that regard. So we've been working to, even 14 years later, figure out our Katrina recovery plan and determine a way for us to survive another 40 years, because we believe we play an important role in the community. Our job in the community is to provide financing, provide capital where it might not exist in the private banking sector.
Is that like hunting for Easter eggs? A difficult challenge?
Well, it can be difficult because, like I said, we're providing financing where it doesn't exist. So, meaning there's no apparent market for it, but there's a need for it. So our job is to take a little bit from the public side, take a little bit from the private side, and come up with solutions, because even though it may not exist in the marketplace, it may still be important to us as a city and the community. So the Finance Authority occupies that space and plays that role so that we can stimulate more investment in housing, more investment in just in the community overall. And as you mentioned, part of our new mission, our new vision, is to address our environmental challenges.
Let's talk about that. You talk about strategy. Now you've broken down strategy into at least 4 categories. Energy efficiency being the first. Talk about that.
So in short, we live in New Orleans and we have climate issues. We know all of our challenges, and they've been here well before Katrina. So all of our agencies, all of our investments need to be built around making sure we have a climate protected New Orleans. The city has a climate resilience strategy that it adopted a few years ago. And that climate resilience strategy has 3 parts to it. One is to better educate the community about climate resilience. 2 is to physically transform the city so that we can be climate resilient. And 3 is to create economic opportunity where it doesn't exist, especially in our neighborhoods that need the opportunity, that need the work development.
So how does that enhance affordable housing?
So at the Finance Authority, we've adopted that same strategy, and we've just overlaid it into our programs. So our programs focus on affordable housing. Our programs focus on job creation and development, particularly new jobs and development. So in other words, if we have a mortgage program, and that mortgage program is ordinarily intended just to help the family to get into the home. Well, what we've done is created a green mortgage program. And that green mortgage program not only helps the family get into the home, but it also helps the family to protect the home. And that can be small things like just making the home more efficient, getting new windows, new appliances, or it can be things around the house like having green infrastructure, permeable pavement, rain barrels, just things that make your property better protected, more valuable, and also contributes to the issues that we have as a city overall.
Like water management.
Water management. Physically transforming the city so that we can handle any storm that comes through, because that's just the fact of living in New Orleans. So that's what that means when we say green, energy efficient, or addressing the city's climate resilience plan, which is just having programs that are just simple, the programs that people know and are familiar with, but just adding those elements to it that help make it a little better and modernize it.
So I'm watching you now, and I'm listening to you as a member of the audience. I mean, how do I get connected to you so I can get started on getting me some funding for affordable housing?
So we are in the process of, one, just announcing our new plans to the community. So that's what we've started to do this year. It's just get out and, we sent out a press release, I think you saw that, where we talked about our new location and our new plan, our new vision for New Orleans. So that's what we've been doing in 2019. In 2020, we're releasing these new programs that I'm telling you about. The first of which is a green mortgage program, and it's just a spin on a traditional housing or Finance Authority mortgage program. So in January, we're going to begin advertising. We're going to send out a press release. We're going to let the community know when that program is available and where they can apply. And we're working on making it simple, providing everybody with efficient access to this type of funding and programming, so that they can get in and make those investments. Another thing that's important about this program for the audience listening is that it's not only for first-time home buyers, because that's what it used to be for, right? Well, now this is for existing homeowners too, because we've heard from the community, we've heard from the banks that families have been in their homes 10, 20, 30 years even, don't want to move, but need to upgrade where they are. And not wanting to move is not so much they can't move, it's a financial decision, but it's also a lifestyle decision. And so we've tried to address that and open up our product to existing homeowners. So if you're a family and you've been in that home for 10 years, 20 years, or maybe you haven't done anything to it since Katrina, well, you can use this new green mortgage program to upgrade that home. Get a new bathroom, get a new kitchen, some minor things within the home, but it's primarily about making sure it's climate protecting, it's energy efficient, and it's valuable, that it retains its value over the long term. That's the important.
What about financial constraints? I mean, what's my eligibility requirement?
So we provide the thing that makes the Finance Authority different than going to a regular bank. When you go to a regular bank, mainly you're just going for that mortgage, that one piece of financing. Well, at the Finance Authority, remember I said we have to kind of create avenues where no avenues exist. So we provide subsidy or soft money in our program sometimes that helps make the project more affordable, or the program more affordable. So our eligibility requirements go up to $99,000 a year. So
that's
per household.
That's the cutoff per household.
Per household. So if you make below $99,000 a year, whether you're a family of 1 or 10, doesn't matter, you qualify for assistance in our program, and that assistance comes in the form of down payment assistance or a second mortgage. That helps to defray the cost of getting to the home and also cover some of the other upgrades. So up to $99,000 is the magic number. Now, if you make above that amount, we still care about your property. We still want you to have a climate protected home. So there are incentives available for families making above that amount, but most of our incentives are concentrated into families making below $99,000. So that's another thing different about this program. affordable housing to us definitely means the families most in need, but it also means everybody. And sustainable housing definitely means everybody. So this new green mortgage program is for more than the first-time home buyer, although we're still focused on that first-time home buyer. We know that there's a much greater need in the community.
So when you talk about accessing this money, and I'm going to focus on the second mortgage, it's still something you have to pay back.
Oh yeah, it's still a mortgage.
All right.
It's still debt. You know, it's
Okay.
still financing that you're getting from the finance authority. So again, we are a financial institution, and we operate much like a private financial institution, but we represent the people. We represent the community. And in order to do that, we take a little public money and a little private money. But most of the time, when you get financing from the finance authority, it's still real debt. It's real money that has to be repaid. It might be more affordable. It might be a little more flexible, but it has to be repaid. And that's actually important because,
Oh yeah.
you know, not just from the financial sustainability of the finance authority, but also so we can keep programs going for the next generation. I mentioned FANO's been around for 40 years, and it's only been around because my predecessor made sure they were investing and retaining, and so that we can just keep those things going in perpetuity. So we try to get families to buy into that concept because a lot of times with these programs, the money is completely free.
Sure.
It might be a grant.
Yeah, I just want
I
our viewers to understand that this is not, you're not talking about a grant. You're not talking about giving grants. You're talking about making access to money that you have to pay back.
Well, it's worth mentioning that sometimes the money is partly a grant. It's partially a grant. But even the grant has requirements. So, for example, in our program, we have what's called a forgivable and non-forgivable loan.
How does that work?
So forgivable loan means we'll forgive it. It's a grant if you meet certain requirements. And that main requirement is just to stay in the home 3 years. So we don't want you getting into the program and just churning it. We want you to make sure you're investing. You're really investing in the community. So we ask people to stay in the home 3 years, and then the money's forgiven. So that's a grant, but it has a requirement. A non-forgivable loan is something that you pay back once you sell or refinance the home. So you're not making monthly payments on it necessarily, but when it's time to get out of it, you pay us back. You pay the community back, and then we give that money to the next family. And that's what I mean by that. We're getting families to buy into the idea that not all of the money can be forgiven.
Gotcha.
And that's not because we don't want to spread our resources around. It's just because resources are limited. And a lot of these resources have to come from New Orleans because they're not coming from DC.
Gotcha.
They're not going to come from the outside anymore. So that's something we're getting everybody to buy into, and that's a bit of a new spin on it.
So you'll be ready to launch your new program in January.
Yes, sir.
So you'll be back to tell us what that is and let people know how they can apply.
Yes, we'll be very active next year on the marketing front. We kind of went quiet this year because we were focused on getting these programs off the ground, but we're going to be doing a lot of outreach. I'll be back here every month if you let me. And
oh yeah, as long as you've got something to offer as it relates to affordable housing.
Sure.
You're welcome.
And another important thing, if I may mention to the audience, I know this is mainly targeting the end user of the affordable housing, but we're also providing resources for developers so that they can build more rental units because there has to be a process. There has to be a step. And we want everybody to be homeowners if they can bear it. But sometimes the reality is there just has to be a step. And we need more of that in this community right now. So a lot of our resources are also going to be going towards working with the city, working with the state on providing developers more access so that we can have more housing.
Collaboration is important.
Yes,
Damon Burns, Executive Director and CEO of the Finance Authority of New Orleans.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson.
Thank you. Right after this break, we will visit with an organization that has been providing affordable housing for seniors for over 50 years. Stay with us.
Why don't you ever see elephants hiding in trees? Because they're really good at it. Yeah, I get it.
Responding to the call of the gospel, Christopher Homes Incorporated strives to provide decent, affordable housing to vulnerable members of our community. With me now to discuss how they've been accomplishing their mission for over 50 years, and you don't look a day over 25.
Oh, I don't know about that, Norman. I don't know about that.
It's Deacon Dennis Adams, who is Executive Director of Christopher Homes.
Yeah.
Deacon Adams, let's just start with a conversation. As we were talking before the show began, when you are discussing the affordable housing crisis, what is the issue that crops up most often than not?
Well, it goes across lines of familiar lines and all, certainly, but with Christopher Homes, our focus is toward the elderly, is toward seniors, recognizing that there's great needs even in workforce housing and in family housing, but our focus is toward our elderly.
And what is the challenge when it comes to housing the elderly, our senior citizens?
Well, I guess it's to say it in a nutshell, Norman, we have 2,500 apartments now with Christopher Homes that we operate and manage. Of that, we maintain 100% occupancy. We hardly have a vacancy except when we lose a resident on, we turn the apartment, we immediately rent it up. But even with that, we've got some 2,100 names on the waiting list for our apartments. I think that speaks volumes of what the need is.
2,100 on the waiting list.
Yes.
And what do you tell people who are on that waiting list?
Oh my word! We get contacts all the time, and we are very highly regulated with HUD, and HUD is a great partner to us and provides these subsidy rents that we provide to our seniors that draw them to us certainly, and we get calls all the time about great need, but with those regulations we have to stay with our waiting list on a first come first served
When you talk
basis.
about regulations, break it down for us.
Break it down. Well, first of all, in order to qualify for our apartment, someone has to be 62 years or older. Now with that, just talking about a need, we've got a third of our residents are over 80 years old, going well into their 90s. Yes, going to the late 90s. Another third is in their 70s. So you can see that when they move in with us, they stay with us because they finally find, as you noted on the opening segment, decent, affordable housing, and they have a great need for that. Now, with that, they also need services, and with the services, we're not well funded with that through our normal HUD funding programs, but we find ways, being a part of the Archdiocese of New Orleans, we find ways to bring services into residents, helping them provide transportation and activities and other needs that they may have. One of the great needs is nutrition, is food, being sure that they have food. Not just for this meal today, but they know that they're going to have meals for the rest of the week. And so other collaborative programs that we have helped us bring in those services.
In addition to those services, what about transportation?
So transportation, we maintain, most of our properties in the city are on bus lines and all, and we try to help with that, but we augment that with our own buses to bring residents to shopping, to groceries, to medical appointments, to activities, to try to keep them active. And at their point in life, very few of them have cars or drive, so we try to help them with those transportation services.
And you talked about eligibility as far as age requirements.
Yeah.
What about the financial?
Income is the other second half of that, the significant part of our eligibility. Our regulations require that our residents their income be less than $23,000 a year. Okay, but 60% of ours are under $1,000 a month.
60%?
60% of our residents have income of under $1,000.
That's startling.
Well, and what's even more startling than that, of that 60%, the majority of them in the city that we have are basic Social Security. So their income is $600 to $700 a month. You know, when you think about that, it really makes you focus on how can someone pay their rent, pay for the food that they need, pay for medical services, and even something left over for whatever, you know.
Well, especially when you
needs.
talk about medical services.
Right.
The cost of drugs.
Absolutely.
The cost of seeing a doctor. And
Yes.
as we know, Medicaid only goes so far.
Right, yeah. So there's great needs now. So what our program does, when I say affordable, I like to refer to it as deeply affordable, because it's
Because you're
based
going
on,
beyond just the shelter.
right. But even the shelter is deeply affordable in that they only pay 30% of their income. So we've got an apartment complex in the Maringouay overlooking the French Quarter, overlooking the business district, and you know, it's a 9-story building overlooking the river, and yet we may have residents in there only paying $120 a month rent for that.
Well, that's a heck
What
of
a
a
deal,
view.
huh?
That's a heck of a viewpoint for $100 a month.
Absolutely. We got another building out on Hayne Boulevard that overlooks the lake with an 11-story building, and I like to say the views out of those apartments are $1 million views looking out across the lake. Those residents may be only paying $120, $150 a month rent based on what their income is. So while it does not allow them to live real comfortably, it does provide them an opportunity to live and help them with other services, particularly when we bring in meals for them at no cost to them, and provide them with these other services.
How are you able to sustain that, those types of services?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because it's through the programs that we have with our collaborative partners. You may know of Giving Hope.
Yes.
Troy Duhan's program. They help with feeding our residents some 700 meals a day that they provide to our residents at no cost to our residents. Other services that we have, a lot of times, Norman, we come in, our managers come in and find a resident that has moved into an apartment and somehow slipped in without us realizing that they have no furniture.
Oh,
They're
my
sleeping
goodness.
on the floor.
So how do you handle that?
Well, we raise funds and all that we can help them buy basic furniture. We be sure they have a bed with mattresses and some basic furniture needs, a chair and a dining table and that sort of thing. And we do that primarily through a program that you've probably heard of within the Archdiocese of I Give Catholic, that raises monies to help us support those nutrition needs, support the need for basic furniture, basic other needs for our residents. And when we opened a property, one of our later properties that we reopened post-Katrina, which was Villa St. Maurice in the lower 9th Ward, my manager told me we had residents moving in there. They moved them in very quickly. I said, how'd you do that? Well, they were just moving in with Walmart bags with some clothes, and that's all they had. So we reached out there. We started bringing them furniture. We tried finding them the support that they need, and it was all through those fundraising efforts with I Give Catholic that we were able to do that.
Now, I'm guessing. I mean, I'm not a scholar when it comes to this issue, but I'm guessing that the situation is compounded because baby boomers are getting older.
That's the scary part of it.
Yeah.
Because there's a wave coming that where we think we have, our numbers are huge on our waiting list now. When that baby boomer wave hits, what are we going to do? That's where you see the city with our mayor talking about the need for affordable housing. There's a huge need out there now, and it's only going to grow as time goes on. And you're a young man and all, but I'm one of those baby boomers, Norman. And I know,
I have to
there's
confess,
a lot of us
I'm a
out
baby
there.
boomer.
I know. But there's a lot of us out there, and there's a lot of us that we don't want to judge and all, but we made some poor choices at times. And so we're going to find the reality hits us, and where do we go? Certainly, we would be blessed to be able to have children and places to go to and live with them. But our seniors don't want that. They want to be independent.
They want to be independent.
They absolutely want to be independent.
And they should be.
And they should be. And they should have an opportunity for that independence, and continue to live. We're not going to be able to live the way we were when we were earning income and all, but able to live basic services and basic housing.
Well, this program has been very successful over the past 50 years. What are your hopes going forward? How do we secure this safety net and at the same time expand it?
Well, it's with that effort of groups coming together. Providence Community Housing that we work so closely with, and I know they've been on your program before, and the city and the state and the federal government coming together to find ways to resolve these issues, to find not only funding to build the housing, but funding to make the housing affordable and deeply affordable for our residents. With it being on a sliding scale basis for their rent, then that's a fair. They pay a share, the residents pay a share, and we find and our government agencies help with that and support that and pay a share. And with that, and then with the services that we find and bring into those through giving efforts and all of others and volunteers, we can make it work. But it has to be a collaborative effort. One agency or one group cannot solve this. We've got to come together as a community. Unfortunately, we find that the New Orleans community is compared to other areas of the country, we tend to be a poor community and all, but we care for each other, and we care for our seniors. And we're going to care for our baby boomers too.
That's right.
We're working together, we're going to find a way.
We are the city that care forgot, but not the city that forgot to care.
Absolutely. That's very well said. Yes, Norman, absolutely.
Deacon Dennis Adams with the Christopher Holmes Group, the Executive Director with the Archdiocese.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you,
it's been a
Norman.
very informative discussion.
You've got a great program, and you need to keep carrying this message out.
And you've got a great program, and keep coming back to tell us what's going on.
Thank you much. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
All right.
Very good.
We will be back to close out Affordable Housing Matters right after this break, so don't go far.
Saturdays at 4:30 p.m. on WLAE.
We would like to again thank all of our guests for joining us on Affordable Housing Matters. Remember, if you would like to rewatch this or any past episodes of our program, please go to WLAE.com and click on the programming link. There, all of our past episodes are available to be viewed. We would like to thank you again for joining us this evening. I'm Norman Robinson. Thanks for watching.